folks. Welcome aboard the channel. I'm Don. This is Rockin' the Country. We got this ship going in the right direction and a good one. We are, on this channel, we're committed to non-pop country music, mostly traditional country music, because traditional country and neo-traditional country are going to make a resurgence. They're going to have not a comeback, but I'm convinced that what is traditional country, some of that has been lost with just sort of the repeat drum loops and pop country and sort of glorified rock. And some of that's fun. I don't have a problem. You know, some is absolutely fun to listen to and I like, but it doesn't have the same substance as traditional country. The storylines, the content in those storylines is just meaty. It's real. It's creative. And it's life, and I think that is going to come back, if you will. It's, you know, the pendulum swung more toward pop, you know, repeat stuff, really a lot of uncreative stuff. The traditional is going to come on back because people really do crave good stories. So, all that said, Jimmy Dean's song PT 109. And I don't know this. It was a gift request from Kyle Perkins. So, Kyle, thank you for this gift and this request. And we're just going to find out. I don't know if private is usually PVT. Am I right? But I guess we'll find out soon enough. I don't know the song. I didn't grow up on country. And so I sort of have I have an eclectic taste in music, but I was a rock guy growing up. And all the way up until, you know, recently. And I still like rock, but country is, in the last 10 years, completely taken me over. And traditional country absolutely has taken me over. But that's why I don't know all these songs by big name artists. So let's see what we got here. Kyle, thank you again, my friend. Yeah, it's got to be private.
In 43 they put to sea 13 men and Kennedy aboard the PT 109 to fight the brazen enemy. And off the Isle of Olasana in the strait beyond Nauru, a Jap destroyer in the night cut the 109 in two. Smoke and fire upon the sea, everywhere they looked was the enemy. The heathen gods of old Japan, yeah, they thought they had the best of a mighty good man.
Jesus. I didn't know initially if this was about the USS Indy, but I think that got sunk in 45. After the war was over, within a few days, I think the Indy carried the bomb. The first bomb, but nobody on board knew it, really. There might have been one or two people. It was top secret, and we didn't even know if the bomb itself was going to work. But the story behind the Indy is that the captain of that ship was actually court-martialed, even though he had done, most people agree he had done nothing wrong. There's nothing he could have done, but it got sunk. They were rescued. But then there was another book, In Harm's Way, by Douglas Stanton, explains the story about the sinking of the USS Indianapolis, but Unbroken might have been the story. That was an unbelievable book about being captured by the Japanese and what it was like after the ship had been sunk. They were rescued by the Japanese, which only you could decide whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. But when you read this book and what they had to endure in the prison camp, it's beyond belief. But all right, here we go.
And on the coast of Kilimanjaro, looking through his telescope, Australian Evans saw the battle, for the crew had little hope. 2 were dead, and some were wounded, all were clinging to the bow, fighting fire and fighting water, trying to save their lives somehow. Smoke and fire upon the sea, everywhere they looked was the enemy. The heathen gods of old Japan, yeah, they thought they had the best of a mighty good man. Acme on the Irishman was burned so badly he couldn't swim. Leave me here, go on, he said, 'cause if you don't, we'll all be dead. The PT skipper couldn't leave him, a man to die alone at sea. And with a strap between his teeth, he towed the Irishman to the sea.
Wow.
Smoke and fire upon the sea, everywhere they looked was the enemy. The heathen gods of old Japan, yeah, they thought they had the best of a mighty good man. He led his men through waters dark, rocky reefs and hungry sharks, braved the enemy's bayonets, a 38 hung round his neck. 4 more days and 4 more nights, a rescue boat pulled into sight. The BT-109 was gone, but Kennedy and his crew lived on.
Wow.
Now who could guess, or who could possibly know, that this same man named Kennedy would be the leader of the nation, be the one to take command. The PT-109 was gone, but Kennedy lived to fight again. Smoke and fire upon the sea, everywhere they looked was the enemy, but JFK and his crew lived on, which proves it's hard to get the best of a man named John. Big John. Big John.
I didn't know that. I didn't know this part of the history. I mean, I'm obviously not going to rate that song, but this is, that could have even been one for July 4th. But this is, I didn't know that part of Kennedy's history, these specific details. You know, that is one thing that when you wind up in the water, in those waters, they are shark infested. And when you read, for example, In Harm's Way, where those guys weren't rescued like by the Japanese and taken to a prison camp, they were sunk by a submarine. And it's a hell of a story, In Harm's Way. If you can read this, it's one of the most impactful books I've ever read. Because you keep each chapter in the book, you think, okay, here comes the Hollywood ending. They get rescued, they come back to the States, they have to make some adjustment with their families, but then they go on with it and life is wonderful. That is not how the book went. Every chapter, it gets worse for these guys who were in the water. But one of the things they had to deal with were sharks. They had to deal with dehydration. They're in water, but it's salt water, and you cannot drink salt water. But they also had to deal with hypothermia, because even though they're in warm Pacific waters where they got sunk, when you're in water that's like 85 or 88 degrees, that's lower than the body temperature that you need. So initially you jump in water that's, 85, 90 degrees. It feels really warm for water. When you're in it for 12 hours, 24 hours, 48, day after day, it's lowering your body temperature, which is generally around 98, 98.6 is the number they give you, but right around 98, 99 degrees. When you're in 90-degree water, for example, you go hypothermic after a while, and you're dealing with sharks, and you're dealing with the sun beating right to all these things that they had to deal with, and some of them just succumbed and died. Some were eaten by sharks, that kind of stuff. But this song conjures up all those things that I'd read and heard about certain aspects of the war. In the Pacific theater, European theater was mostly on land, but this was beyond belief. But now, PT, what does that stand for? What kind of a ship does that stand for? PT-109. You guys can help me out on that have been around. And of course, thank you for your service, those of you who see this. And the last of the World War II, there aren't many World War II vets alive to this day. And any chance I get, I always talk with the veterans about what it was like then. But I mean, it's rarer and rarer that I get that opportunity. Now it's more Vietnam vets, and many of them are getting to the age where they're dying as well. In any case, all that said, this kind of song depicts so specifically a sinking and a rescue. And but then in this case of JFK, who went on obviously to become president, then he himself got assassinated, and it just conjures up any bit of understanding or knowledge that I have about what it was like in war for these folks specifically. And when you read detailed accounts or you hear a detailed account like this, it's an absolute damn disgrace that anybody would kneel or just. I get having issues with things taking place within the country. I mean, we basically have a two-party system. And so you're not going to agree with the policies of the other side. We all have our own value systems and such, and I respect that completely. But to disrespect the entire enterprise when you hear that is the United States of America, and you hear stories like this, it's like, can you just keep in mind that there are so many men and women, parents, wives, children that were affected by stories like this. And there were hundreds of thousands, millions of stories like this worldwide. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to rate that, Kyle, but thank you for requesting this song. It obviously had the military drum. When you hear the drums and the flute and all that, it's going to be poignant. So, all right, guys, you could thank Kyle Perkins for that one. Have a great day. Thank a veteran. Thank you all veterans. And see you on another video. Keep rocking the country.